So this abortion debate was already off the rails before the conversation even started. Today, I'm going to be going over the top 10 moments from our 1v20 pro-life versus pro-choice on Dr. Daff. But before I do, I really want to help the audience understand just how admirable these pro-life women were, because we were being attacked before the conversation even started. And typically when they invite you on, they don't tell you who you're going to be going up against. They just say, hey, we have an abortion debate. You're a pro-lifer. Would you like to represent the pro-life side? And you say yes. But it was 20 pro-life women, and a lot of us who were invited, we just happened to be at a pro-life event with Live Action weeks prior. It was a women's leadership pro-life event. And I heard multiple women talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to be going on the Dr. Daff show. I'm going to be debating a pro-choicer. And I was like, wait, you are? I am too. And a lot of us ended up connecting, and we were in a group chat. We were talking about, how we were studying, and we were just kind of like prepping together, but we didn't know who the opponent was going to be. Now, I had a couple of guesses, and Nevaeh was one of my guesses. So I went through Nevaeh's Instagram and some of her socials to see, is she saying anything about how she has an upcoming abortion debate? And sure enough, I find a live stream on her Twitch where she is talking about how she has a big debate coming up. And she not only says that she's the pro-choicer that we're going to be debating. So the Dr. Daff show isn't the one who told us. She's the one who told us on her own live stream on Twitch. But then she gave us every single one of her talking points. It's not the smartest idea when you have an upcoming debate to live stream every single one of your arguments, because, it's very possible that the people you're debating could find that. But she really assumed the worst of us. And she said, yeah, there's no way they're going to be watching this. They're all too stupid. They're all too dumb to find anything like this anyways. That is something that she said.
Hopefully none of them watch this. I doubt they will. Also, I don't know that they know how to read.
Anyways, so of course, we share in the group chat, hey, it is definitely going to be Nevaeh. We can now prepare knowing this is what she's going to be bringing up. And so we started studying together. We, watched her live streams to see what she was saying, so we could be prepared for what her general beliefs and arguments were going to be. And as we watched these live streams, we realized that Nevaeh was not going to go in assuming the best of us. We wanted to assume the best of her. She wanted to make personal attacks on us because she started saying how she was going to call us Nazis, how she was basically going to assume that we all were just dumb religious bigots. There was an address change, and one of the people working at Dr. Daff said, hey, if you are a pro-lifer, please respond to this email by saying that you realize that we've had a change of address. And anyone who responded, because she was CC'd on that email, she saw who we were. And so she ended up searching our names on Instagram and on socials and pulling us up, making fun of our looks, making fun of our belief systems. One of the girls is only 18, and she was attacking her for her singing because she sang a song about Charlie Kirk, and she was mocking that. She called some of our husbands chopped. She zoomed in to some of our faces on Instagram and was like, well, I'm not going to say anything, guys, but just look at that face. And she, basically was making fun of us. Not only was it feeling like she was bullying us, but it was just incredibly uncharitable and dehumanizing to us, because it's wait, are we here to have good conversation? Are we here to actually get into our arguments, or are you just going to make fun of us on the surface and call us dumb before you even hear what we have to say? We've seen Nevaeh do this in the past with Charlie Kirk, right? He's asking, do you know the definition of a fetus? And he gives her, the root definition of where we get that word in Latin. And then she just makes fun of his smile.
First of all, it's not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the I'm sorry, is this a language class?
It means little human being.
Ooh, his smile is very creepy. Okay.
Smiling is creepy?
No, your smile specifically.
Got it.
But let's go back.
This is kind of Nevaeh's claim to fame, is this Charlie Kirk debate. And it's sad because her audience really thinks that she cooked or owned Charlie Kirk. All she did was just attack his looks and make her audience laugh. She didn't actually contend with what Charlie was saying, which is, hey, you're calling it just a fetus. You're trying to use dehumanizing language, but ironically enough, fetus actually does mean a little human, a little person in Latin. It's not so surprising that she ended up doing the exact same thing to us. But it goes to show that if someone is making personal attacks and ad hominem attacks on their opponent and not actually reasoning with the arguments that their opponent is presenting, if they have to result in ad hominem and personal attacks, they are trying to deflect and posture to the audience that they are the one correct, but they're not actually reasoning with their opponent's arguments. And they only have to do that if they don't actually have good arguments themselves. I'm telling you guys, these women were saints, because even after all of that, they said, we want to continue to bless Naima. We want to give her a gift in the middle of her move. They gave her a donation of money, just to say, hey, we care about you. Never going to make personal attacks on her. They prayed for her. Behind the scenes, they spoke nothing but kindness over her. Not just, like I said, publicly in this debate, but even behind the scenes in this group chat, they're like, yeah, we're not going to speak ill of her. And they truly, 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 truly showed what it meant to do good to those who persecute you. I wanted you guys to know the uphill battle that these women were facing and how it really speaks to, once again, their character, that they still chose to approach this debate with the kindness that they did. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Number 10, her flop on when she doesn't know when personhood begins.
I define someone's worth or personhood based on the 14th Amendment. So in the 14th Amendment, that's our right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all these things. We like them, right? Right, yes. So I define personhood based on the first sentence of the 14th Amendment. It says all persons born or naturalized.
Citizenship clause, all persons born or naturalized. It's not actually a defining fact about when human life begins, because also it goes on to say that within the jurisdiction of the United States that no person shall be basically discriminated against under the law, right? All persons have a right to life, liberty, and due property life, liberty, and property. Sorry, I was talking a little too fast. And due process of the law, right? So with that being said, what you're saying is not implying that a fetus isn't a person, because legal personhood also classifies corporations. So we can also argue that. But my question,
that's actually a great point, because I disagree with corporate personhood. I think that's ridiculous too, because a corporation hasn't been born, a corporation isn't naturalized, and a corporation does not have the same consequences as a human being who is alive with a conscience who has to pay taxes does, right?
So we all asked her multiple times, what makes someone a person? What gives someone a personhood? And she says, well, it is when someone, according to the Constitution, they get these rights as a person, as an American citizen, when they're born. But the problem, which Maya points out, is that she's quoting the citizenship clause, which is not making a claim, a moral claim on when someone is a person. Obviously, she would never say, as a leftist, that if someone isn't born in America, that they aren't a person, right? But that clause is to say that if you are not born in America, you are not an American citizen, so you don't get these constitutional rights as an American citizen. That is what the citizenship clause that Maya is pointing out. But you're referring to this to say that's when personhood begins. Girlfriend, we do not decide who's a person based on a citizenship clause of if they are American getting constitutional American rights. That is ridiculous. Number 9, her contradiction, saying we can't know when life begins. No one in this room knows when life begins. Only God, and the Bible doesn't say. Wait. We can make an argument that in the Bible that we are supposed to protect the preborn, but it doesn't make sense, because this is a contradiction, because in her later prompt, she says that our religious beliefs should not dictate what is within law.
I don't believe that I can say when a life begins. I don't believe that anyone in this room can say that when a life begins. I think that the only one who can really say when a life begins is God. And though it's not stated, because it's not stated in the Bible, secular morality and scientific data, and not, oh, my God said it's a murder, so therefore I'm going to create these laws that everyone now has to follow.
Okay, so which one is it, Naima? Is it that only God can say when life begins? Or if when we appeal to what God says in the Bible, that now that's not separating religion and the state, and everyone's forcing their religious beliefs on everyone. Wait, if you believe that, then why did you just say that no one can tell us when life begins except for God? Number 8, her trying to language police us by saying that we're saying killing babies as an emotional response, trying to invoke emotion out of people.
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to talk firstly about the language of killing babies, because I know this is going to come up a lot. Pro-lifers always like to say killing babies, killing babies, killing babies. It's not a baby. I know this from my debate with Charlie Kirk. We talked a lot about the definition of what a baby is and what it's not. A baby specifically means post-birth. So if you want to say killing a fetus, that's fine, but killing a baby is scientifically incorrect. So I would appreciate it if we don't use that language.
Right now, you just said that a fetus is a human being, correct?
But it's not a baby, right? If we're recognizing the stages of fetal development,
I agree
and
with
we're recognizing the stages of life development, then saying killing a baby is different than saying killing a fetus.
We're saying
and the
killing
reason
a
why you
human
use
being.
that language is to evoke an emotional response in the viewer.
I think that's really
right? When it's
uncharitable.
actually disingenuous, because that's not what it means.
Now, Noelle called this out right away and said that's not a charitable argument at all, to say that we're just saying killing babies or murdering babies because, I don't know, we just want to rile people up with their emotions. That's not true. We actually do believe it's murder off the definition of murder, which is the taking away of an innocent life. We would say abortion fits that definition. And also, a baby isn't a scientific term, right? It's the same way that a mom isn't a scientific term. It's a title or it's a role that we give. And so, no, it wouldn't be so far to say that the fetus growing in the womb is a baby. Murdering babies is how we see it. We're not just trying to evoke an emotional response, but it's very interesting that she tries to language police us, but then she will use language that is trying to use an emotional response or a dehumanizing response by calling the fetus growing in the womb a clump of cells. Okay, well, I'm a clump of cells. You're a clump of, you're trying to you're using dehumanizing language.
Is choosing between the constitutional rights of a born and naturalized human being who is conscious, who does have needs, who does feel pain, and a clump of cells.
You're trying to language police us, but you are using language that is maybe you could say blurry in order to try to dehumanize. And she uses this consistently. She also uses dehumanizing language when she calls mothers whose baby may not survive till birth a walking coffin. She also uses dehumanizing language when she refers to babies conceived in rape as rapist babies. Number 7, piggybacking off of calling women who have fetal anomalies walking coffins. Also, on this exact same point in time, when we were talking about this, she said, how is it pro-life? Niama said, how is it pro-life if you won't allow a woman to abort her child that's already going to die? And Heather made a great point. She's like, because it's still alive.
Is already going to die post-birth. Why should they not have the choice to abort it?
Because delivering their baby and getting to say goodbye to their baby and hold their baby and bond with their baby is healthier than killing their baby.
But do you believe that should? It's not killing their baby.
Yes,
it's already going to die.
But it's alive now. It's alive now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you believe that it should be a choice to carry a fetal anomaly to term?
I do not believe that a woman should ever have the choice to kill her child.
So even if, how is it pro-life if the fetus is going to die regardless?
Well, you have.
I want her to answer. I'm sorry, my love. I really want you to answer.
A woman should never have the choice to kill her child.
But how is it pro-life if there is no life?
It is alive.
But it's going to die.
So if you got cancer, should I just kill you now because you're going to die? You might die.
Yeah, it is pro-life to say we believe that they should be able to have that baby and grieve the loss of that death. They shouldn't be able to just say, well, it's going to die anyway, so I might as well kill it now. That's not pro-life. Number 6, Naima claiming that we have to be doctors in order to know what is less traumatic for women when she herself is not a doctor.
And
Are you a doctor?
I'm not a doctor.
Exactly.
But I'm the founder of one. I'm the CEO of one. And I have a doctor that works for me. I have a nurse practitioner that works for me. Half of my payroll goes to paid medical staff that takes care of women. And I'm so thankful that we are replacing Planned Parenthood.
It's like, Naima, let's use our brains here. You're saying Heather's not a doctor. Don't you see the irony here? You're not a doctor either. You're not a doctor either. So who are you to say what is healthiest for women or what's best for women or what's less traumatic for women? If you're using the standard on Heather that she has to be a doctor in order to make that statement, wouldn't you also have to be a doctor to make that statement? Number 5, and I truly believe that this point won us the first prompt, when Maya brought up that it is not a constitutional right to have an abortion. And she referred to Roe v. Wade being overturned.
Okay, so
that is not, they're not equal.
Bodily autonomy doesn't extend to intentionally ending the life of another innocent person. And I would love to just hear your perspective on how does the Constitution even infer a right to abortion? Because part of the reason that abortion, like Roe v. Wade, was even overturned in the first place is because the Supreme Court decided that a right has to be rooted deeply in this nation's history as well as what we practice. So when the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868, abortion was widely restricted across the states. So they determined that it's not a right because in the Constitution, it's not inferred as a right, and that's why Roe v. Wade was overturned with Alice v. Jackson. So my question for you is, number 1, you still haven't proven how a fetus isn't a human being, and also, number 2, how does a child's natural, age-appropriate stage in development and dependency on their parent give us a right to end their life?
So you're going to notice that continually throughout this debate, she continues to refer to abortion as a right that a woman has according to the Constitution, but that's clearly not a right given to women in the Constitution, and Maya showed that in the very first prompt. Number 4, and Naima loved to appeal to bodily autonomy throughout this entire debate, and we knew that she was going to do that because so many times the pro-choice side tries to make it like it's some moral good, women's bodily autonomy, bodily autonomy, bodily autonomy. Well, Lydia's hypothetical really destroys that idea that a woman's bodily autonomy somehow gets to overwrite the child's right to life and the mother's responsibility to care for that child.
Do you think a child's dependency on their parents to survive should be a death sentence?
Well, here's the thing. A child doesn't simply depend on their parents. While children are more dependent on adults than a full adult like you or me, they're not dependent on one specific person. So if an adult, believes I no longer have the capacity to care for this child, they have options. So their freedom and liberty is not being infringed upon.
So what about in other countries where there's sadly not adoption, no formula, in remote villages where there's no other breastfeeding moms? If a mother has a newborn, the newborn is solely dependent on her body. Do you think she should be able to kill her newborn since it's solely dependent on her body for survival?
I'm sorry, what?
In remote countries, sadly, I wish this wasn't the case, but there is a lack of formula, adoption, resources, other breastfeeding moms to take care of babies. If a mother has a newborn baby, the baby is solely dependent on her body, her breast milk to survive. She can't just feed it steak. So should she be able to kill her newborn baby since it's fully dependent on her body to survive?
If there were no other breastfeeding mothers and no
this is sadly a
formula.
common thing.
I mean, sadly, I think the infant mortality rates in those places are just a lot
Which is sad.
higher, right? But in that instance, I would absolutely say she should have the right to get an abortion before that child is born if she knows that she does not have the resources to care for that child.
Should she be able to kill her newborn baby since that newborn baby is equally dependent on her body as a preborn baby who's also dependent on her body?
It's still not equally dependent on her body. It's just dependent. I'm not really.
No, it is. She's alone.
What place in the world are you saying there are zero other adults who can care?
I've done a lot of work, sadly, in other countries where this is the case. I visited these remote villages and tried to get supplies and help for these people in need. And it is sadly a thing. I mean, even here in America, a mom could get snowed in alone with her newborn baby. By your logic, she should be able to kill her newborn baby since it's fully dependent on her body alone. So she is fully the only one that is able to care for this baby. And by your logic, you said if a baby is...
I'm not really buying this hypothetical. I'm sorry, man.
Why? But you literally said a preborn baby, the reason why we can kill that preborn human being... That's why it's hypothetical. No, but it's even reality too. That is a real situation.
But why don't we focus on reality? And why don't we focus,
reality.
I mean, those people aren't, like, they don't follow our Constitution, right?
You can't answer it because you're realizing that it's defeating your logic. Because
all right, we're getting into the top three. Number 3 is going to be, and it was a glaring contradiction when it comes to when someone actually gets the right to life. So at one point in time, it was, yes, someone who is born, according to the citizenship clause, we talked about that earlier, they're the ones who have personhood. They're the ones who get these constitutional protections and these rights. When does the fetus begin to, in your opinion, get those rights to life?
The same equal constitutional protections as a human woman would be once it is born and naturalized as a U.S. citizen.
Okay, so basically anyone who has come out of the birth canal, that's when they get rights to life. So I asked her, then are you for third trimester abortions? So you're for third trimester abortions because they're not born yet?
I'm pro Roe v. Wade, the legislation around abortion. That is my stance, right? Which allows abortions up until 24 weeks of pregnancy with a singular exception for the life of the mother.
Because if she was consistent with her logic here, then she should be for third trimester abortions. But she changes that to, no, I'm with the Roe v. Wade. I'm talking about viability here. So that's 24 weeks. So that's a contradiction. Does someone not get full personhood and full rights to the constitutional protections until after they're born? Or it's after viability that they get the right to life? She continues to flip-flop all throughout this debate. It doesn't make any sense. And she's even held to this standard by my friend Taylor, who pointed this out as well with her racism prompt, where she was making it sound like if women don't have access to abortion, that is racist. And this is what she had to say.
Relate to your prompt, but are you interested in banning abortion post-viability?
I said that. No? Yeah, at 24 weeks.
Yes.
At 24 weeks, the only exception is that the mother's life is at risk.
Okay, so
support the Roe.
Got it. So by your own logic, would then those later term abortions also be racist since Black women would need them more often?
I'm confused.
So if you're saying that abortion bans are racist because Black women seek abortions more, yes? Am I getting, okay. And then also by your logic, when you want to ban abortion post 24 weeks, would those bans also not be racist?
So did you hear the singular exception that I gave?
Life of the mother, but that's not the majority of the reason why Black women are seeking abortions.
Okay, but if a Black woman's life was at risk, then I would support her having an abortion after 24
Wouldn't you want to protect those Black fetuses post-viability?
Post-viability? Well, I said after viability, the only exception is if the mother's life is at risk. As we're the same.
Your logic just doesn't track them
because
then, no, because then by your logic, all abortions should be banned except for life of the mother, right? Because you're claiming that it would be racist if we banned abortion in total for the sole reason that Black women seek abortions more, but then you're kind of backtracking your logic when you want to ban abortion post 24 weeks. So by your logic, those would also be racist abortion bans.
Why? You got to connect that one.
Do you see how she seems to be all over the place here? It's, oh, they get the rights to personhood once they're born. Well, actually, it's for viability. Well, if you take away a woman's right to be able to have an abortion if she's Black, then that's racist. She's all over the place when it comes to this. This is what drives pro-lifers crazy, is that we are constantly being accused of being anti-science. We don't have good logic. We don't have reasoning. You know, we're just using the Bible to force our beliefs on people. We just want to control women's bodies. No. We hear all of these false claims put on us. No, we just want consistency. We just want you to follow your true morals and your logic to its conclusion. And so we are being consistent when we say if it is alive and if it is a human, it gets human rights, including the right to life. So it doesn't matter at what stage of development it's in. Is it alive? Is it a human? It gets the right to life. But watch, if you talk to a pro-choicer long enough, you find out they're not consistent. They're not following their logic to its conclusion. And we saw this with Naima, talking to her for over an hour, almost 2 hours. You see the flip-flopping. They're not being consistent inconsistent, and we are. Speaking of being inconsistent and not following the logic to its conclusion, this leads up to number 2. And I'm so thankful that Anne chose to share her story and be vulnerable. In the one-on-one at the very end of the conversation, Naima chose Anne, and Anne was conceived out of rape. And one moment, as they're talking about the horrors of rape, which we all agreed as pro-lifers that these rapists need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They need to be held accountable for what they've done. We all agree this is awful and horrific. But Anne was conceived in a moment like that. And her life still has value and is valuable. Naima, at one moment, says, well, the woman should be able to choose to abort that baby. But she's making it sound like the child who's already been conceived, the life is already there, that it's up for debate if that life gets to live or not because of the trauma of the mother. It's up for debate if that life has value or not because of the way that that child was conceived.
I just don't believe that a woman who is put in that situation of powerlessness should now have her body forever changed if she doesn't want to. And I want to make it very clear that those of us who are pro-choice are not trying to say that depending on how a fetus is conceived is what your worth is as a person.
Naima, these two things cannot exist at the same time. People who are conceived in a horrific act like rape, even if the father has done a horrific crime, it doesn't change the innocence of the fetus, of the child, and their right to life. So if Anne's life truly matters, if she is more than just a rapist baby, then that means if you see her as valuable and you're thankful that she's here, that means that you need to also advocate and realize that the other children who are conceived in rape, they deserve the right to live as well. And the number one spot for the most, in my mind, shocking moment of this debate was when we told her over and over and over again that life begins at fertilization, according to biologists. We presented the facts, we presented the data, we presented even the source of where we were getting our data, and she still denied it.
So I think we need to clarify a little bit. As a pro-lifer, I don't believe that a fetus is valuable because they're a baby. I believe they're valuable because they are an innocent human being. The scientific consensus for when life begins is fertilization. That is what 96% of biologists agree from across 1,000 different academic institutions is when the beginning of a new, unique human being's life begins. Not just human cells, not just a human life, but a new, unique human being.
So if I could just jump in there is no scientific consensus on when life begins. There is not.
So this is from the National Institute of Health. The scientific consensus is that 96% of biologists agree that a new, unique human being's life begins at fertilization.
I'm sorry, love, this is not true.
But it is. I just gave you the source. Do you have
taking care of your baby and neglect is very different than murdering your baby.
Well, it's not murdering though, because you don't know when life begins. Nobody does.
Can you define murder?
Okay, yes. I mean, in my opinion, and based on the law, murder is the intentional killing of a human being. Yes.
The scientific consensus that a baby in the womb is a human being.
I know you keep harping on that, but again.
Well, do you agree that a fetus is a human being?
And everyone will see that there is not a scientific consensus.
And don't forget, she said that no one can determine when life begins. Only God can. But then she also says that she wants us to make secular arguments and not rely on our religious beliefs. We have to make secular ones. So then we made a secular one, and she throws it away. Make it make sense.
Right? Our secular argument is that all human life begins at fertilization.
I know that's your secular argument, but that's not a scientific objective fact yet.
It is by molecular biology's criterion for determining life, whether something is alive or not. A zygote from the moment of fertilization meets all of the criterion.
But really what made this so eye-opening is that she claimed to care about the science and wanting us to make a secular argument. And when we did, and when we said, hey, after this debate, go ahead and look it up, she said, no, that's not true. No one's going to find anything. Well, I wonder if we're ever going to get an apology from her, or if we're going to get a, rebuttal from her on like, hey, I was wrong on this. I have a feeling we're not going to. But even when she was asked by Savannah, hey, if we could prove it to you, if there was 100% consensus, then would you be pro-life? This is what she said.
If there was a source that said human life begins at fertilization, would you be pro-life?
If there was a source undeniably that stated human life begins at fertilization?
A scientific, biological source.
If there was like 100% consensus, probably not.
Probably not. Probably not, because at the end of the day, as much as you want to say you don't believe that it's murder, if you realize that it was life, you would have to concede it is murder, that this is a moral atrocity that is happening. We've killed over 72 million lives in the womb. And maybe, just maybe, we'd have to be accountable for our horrific beliefs of saying that it is okay to murder the life of the innocent child in the womb. I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Daff for inviting us on and hosting this conversation. I want to say thank you to Naima for joining the conversation and for making that video saying that she realized that she did assume the worst of us going into this. I know that in this video, I want you to know that I'm attacking your beliefs and your ideology, not you personally. And I believe that that is what we should be doing. And I hope that this conversation was changing. And it seems like, based on the video that you made, that it did change your mind and change your heart posture towards maybe how you have conversations with pro-lifers. I can only hope that maybe you can change that heart posture towards men as well, because you did say it was because of you thought it was men was the common denominator of why this conversation went so well. I would say no, it's not because men weren't there. It's because there were women who were sincere, who are genuinely pro-life, and many of them actually are Christian and wanted to exemplify the love and the grace of Jesus Christ. It's not because men weren't there. It's because we chose to be loving and gracious. I do want to say thank you to her for still choosing to be part of this conversation with us. And then, of course, I would ask that you guys continue to support the pro-life movement by supporting content creators like myself and the women who showed up to do this debate. I'm going to be putting all of their links in the description so that you can follow them and support them. And I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Until next time.